Hi, I'm T from Pilates Pro Maintenance. I'm here with Gratz today. We're going over the general maintenance of the reformer, the Gratz reformer. Today we're going to run over the main wheel service. We have already turned over the carriage and now we're going to do setup 2 to start the service. I like to cover the carriage with paper towels. Regardless, you will need either towels or paper towels to put over your carriage. This is going to be your working station. You'll have your tools here. You'll have some of the wheels here. Main part about the service, again, guys, is to stay organized, stay clean. Taking off the wheels and putting them back on is a challenge, but it won't be as much of a challenge as keeping grease in the places where it's supposed to be and not on the carpet, vinyl, or any part of the frame where it's not. So doing it slow, taking your time, and really staying organized is going to be a big part of this service. Covering your frame where you will be working. Once grease gets on your wood, you may have just the backing may be a light wood where it's very unforgiving if it gets on it. You also may have a light vinyl where once you get black grease on it, it's very, very hard to remove. Even if you do, it just won't be the same as it was. Bringing the tools on, you will need a socket wrench or a number 13 wrench. I'll bring them both up. You will also need a screwdriver with both the flathead and the Phillips head on it, and both the small and the bigger size of both for our safety check. An adjustable wrench is optional if you don't want to use a regular wrench or socket wrench. I would suggest the socket wrench, and I'll explain in a second why. White lithium grease, which is the only grease we use to lubricate the axle screws and the wheels of the Gratz reformer. Q-tips, which we use to get into small nooks and crannies of the wheels, the casters, the washers. Keep a garbage bag handy, which I like to open and keep in the well as I use Q-tips, as I use small pieces of paper towels. This is where it will all land. Again, setting up for success is a big part of this. Going to look for the garbage after you already need it could be a recipe for chaos. Just losing part of the system at any moment can cause for grease to end up on the tools that you don't want them to or on furniture that you don't want it to. Have a pair of gloves, which you will need. Maybe more than one pair of gloves. And last but not least, small pieces of paper towels, or if you don't have pre-cut pieces of paper towel, an entire roll will come in handy if you keep it close. Regardless, you won't be recycling any of the Q-tips or the paper towels. Most of the material that you use, you will dump into the garbage as soon as it's used. The grease is really unforgiving, it's dark, and you don't want it back on the new grease. You don't want to mix in with the washers after you clean them. And that's basically the reason why we want to stay organized. You might want to have a separate tool station. I bought these tools up here, but you're going to need most of the space for your wheels. So I'm just going to go ahead and move these out of the way. We usually keep a stool close because you might want to spend some time, might want to get comfortable with the time you're going to spend servicing a reformer. Typically, servicing all 10 wheels of a reformer will take about 2 hours. And that is considering that we do this all the time and we're very used to the system that we're doing. So if you are going to service your reformer, just cut out at least 2 hours of your time and make sure that you're going to take your time, even if you're just doing the main wheels or just the side wheels. Okay, we're going to just go ahead and move the tools out of the way. And I just want the open napkin for the wheels that are coming on. I'm going to go ahead and put the first pair of gloves. Like I said, try to keep more than one pair. Recycling any of these things could cause for a greater chance of a mistake. Grabbing my socket wrench and my 13, You could also use the half if you don't have a 13, but 13 is the recommended size. I'm placing the socket wrench on the outside. It doesn't matter which side you choose, but this is the side I've noticed that causes a lot less slipping. A big part about taking off the wheels. These are the main wheels of the carriage, by the way. They sit on the casters on all four corners of the Gratz reformer. The side wheels sit on black casters right on the frame in the inner part of the Gratz reformer. And the back wheels, of course, are on the back end of the carriage, of the frame, which is where the leather straps roll in through. Taking off the carriage wheels, the main carriage wheels, keep in mind that you want to have some type of tool management. And what I mean is, you might want to understand how the tools work before you even come on and practice on the Gratz reformer. And the reason I say that is because once you strip the screws and the axle screws or the nuts of the reformer, you're risking the chance of having a non-working reformer at all if you damage any of the parts trying to take them on and off. I would recommend to slightly put the tools into the nuts and then press really hard into the wheel, so you will cause a lot less slippage. Okay. So part of staying uniform when servicing the Gratz reformer is keeping the tools in your hand for the whole time that you need them. And what I mean is, if I'm going to loosen this wheel, and I know I'm servicing all four wheels, I will loosen all four wheels while I have the tools in my hand. If I'm servicing 3 reformers, and I'm doing this regular service for all 3 reformers, I would loosen all 4 wheels to all 3 reformers at the same time. Putting the tools down, picking them up, is a recipe for a messy situation. It also increases the chances of you losing the tool, forgetting where you put it down, increases the chances of you putting grease on the tools or in places where you don't want them. They do get dirty the minute you start using them, so it's the reason why you want to keep the dirty things all together in the same part of the service. Then once you take your gloves off, you're cleaning things up, putting them back, it just keeps it clean and organized, especially when you're servicing more than one reformer, especially when you're servicing more than 4 wheels on each reformer. 10 wheels per reformer, 5 reformers at the same time, you're taking off 50 wheels and about 100 washers. It can get messy really quick. You can lose a washer, you can lose a screw, and that's really what you want to keep from happening during the service. I'm going to go ahead and just loosen all 4 wheels. And this is a question that we get often, which is loosening the back wheels that are closest to the straps. What would happen is that you cannot put the socket wrench in there. You can't put the closed end of the wrench in there as well. The only part that would fit in there is the open part of the wrench, 13 or 1/2. And that will hold the nut in place. You put the socket wrench or adjustable wrench or whatever other tool you use for the other side you chose to use, and that's what you will crank. You will crank the outside of the wheel. And in case you haven't ran into this problem, the reason this happens is because the caster that holds the eye hook to the leather straps is really close to the caster that holds the carriage wheels. That will not allow you to put any tool against it other than the flat wrench. That one's loose. And again, don't waste any time taking off the nuts as you loosen them. Don't waste any time taking off one wheel once it's loose. Once you're taking off the nuts, you're taking off all the nuts to all the wheels you've loosened. Once you've taken off one wheel, you're taking off every wheel that you've loosened. Basically, stay uniform all the time, guys. I will give you my back for 1 second. There. So I know all my nuts are loose. And assuming I've loosened all the wheels to all the reformers that I'm working on, that's when I'll put these tools down. These tools would only come back to my hand if for some reason I didn't loosen one of these enough, which is rarely, because that's why you want to make sure they're all loose in the first place, or when I'm going to tighten everything back together. That's the only time you should be grabbing these tools again, and that's going to keep the grease from getting on them or mixing back and forth. Just going to remove these tools onto my other station, and we're going to use this space to organize the wheels. Now we start the removing of the wheels. I'm taking off all the nuts, and again, stay in uniform and keeping all the nuts together in one place. This you will do for all your reformers. Keep all the screws in one place, all the washers in one place. You won't have to keep counting them or looking for them when you need them. Now that all the nuts are off, I'm removing the actual axle screw that is threaded through the wheel, through the caster, and 2 washers. And you'll see all the components as I put them down on my working station. One thing to keep in mind is the washers that are outside of each wheel, which I have one here, these nylon washers, as you take the wheel off, may stick to the wheel, they may stick to the washer, to the caster, or they may just fall off. They may just simply fall off as you're taking the wheel off. They may fall in between the caster and the wheel. They may fall in between these 2 casters, the ones for the leather straps and the side and the back wheels, or they may just fall on the floor. So keep an eye out for these nylon white washers, which may not be so white when you're taking them off or when they need service. I got one stuck on the caster, one stuck on the wheel for that one. Check both sides of your wheels for the washers. Again, I had one on the wheel, and I have one stuck on the caster right over here. And be sure to keep all your washers together. I had both fall off here. Now you have removed all the main wheels. You've removed all the washers. And assuming you've removed all the wheels to all the washers to every reformer you're working on, now you can take off these gloves to start the next process. I don't recommend stopping to clean a washer or a wheel or a specific reformer, then going to the next reformer and starting the process over. Not only are you saving the equipment from being damaged and saving time on putting tools down and up, but also the general time of the setup is decreased by like half when you set everything up in one shot, when you service all the things in one direction, and then you come back in that same uniform way and put it all back together. So this is the time where, assuming I took all the wheels off to everything I'm servicing, if I were servicing all 10 wheels to this reformer, I would have loosened all the wheels and took all the washers off with all the axle screws and placed them all in a bigger station, which I usually set up next to me or on the floor. You can just lay down a nice big towel and set all your wheels there. Keep in mind that whatever you set these wheels on will be damaged. There's grease that's going to go on it, and that's not something that you probably will be able to just wash off. Again, if you are doing all of the wheels, not just these, imagine twice the amount of wheels, twice the amount of washers and screws and nuts all being laid out. It gets very messy very quick you want to stay organized. Now we're ready to start cleaning the washers. Something I should mention is that when taking the wheels off, there's no need to keep track of where you took them off from. It's okay to put the wheel on a different caster, just as long as you put them back in a very specific way, which I will show you when we're putting it all back together. But no reason to worry about which wheel went onto which caster when you were taking them off. Now we're ready to service the wheels, clean the screws, the washers, nuts, bolts, and put it all back together.